Under a month before the Congolese go to the polls in the Democratic Republic of Congo, opposition parties continue to cry foul over how they are treated ahead of the elections. Some members of the opposition allege that they have been denied access to the country so as to do their campaigning and speak to the electorate. This is despite continued calls in Africa and internationally on Congolese authorities for the upcoming elections to be free and fair. We are now joined by Nono Landu, the Sub-Saharan Africa Presidential Campaign Director for one of the presidential candidates, Martin Fayulu. Nono, thank you so much for joining us on The Globe and a very good evening. Now, what's the status of elections of the much anticipated December elections?
What I can say, thank you, the country and all that electoral process is heading in a very bad direction. From preventing some key opposition leaders to run, the like of Moïse Katumbi, Jean-Pierre Mbemba, to name those big ones. Now, Kabila's camp are like trying to undermine the campaigning process, the electoral campaigning process. I'm talking here specifically for Martin Fayulu, the one opposition chose as the common candidate from the Geneva Convention that happened some few days ago. Can you imagine that he won't be able to use the plane we rented for him in South Africa because Congolese authority would not allow that plane to fly over the Democratic Republic of Congo airspace. It's that negative vibe around all that process, and we've got serious fear from what could result on such behavior from the power.
Now, do you think the elections taking place or expected to take place on the 23rd of December will be free and fair?
There are many issues about around that question. Definitely, from what's going on right now, those elections can't be fair, neither free, because you will notice that the Electoral Commission just chose to use that voting machine that was not even in the Constitution. The Electoral Commission got on the voters list almost 20 million of people without fingerprint. Can you imagine? That is set up to allow Kabila's camp to cheat, and they manage to get one of unpopular candidates who's running, because the only way for them to set a win is to cheat. 10 million voters without any fingerprint.
And with the Electoral Commission, are they allowing those 10 million to continue to vote in the election coming up?
Yeah, that was one of the issues raised by opposition leaders and by the candidate I represent here, Martin Fayulu. They asking the Electoral Commission to remove from the voters list those 10 million people without fingerprint.
And what's the Electoral Commission's reaction to that or response to those claims or reports?
The Electoral Commission doesn't care about opposition demand, because for sure they are working with that specific plan to make Kabila and his camp win.
What's the opposition's call to the African Union and SADC leaders? What are you requiring these to do in terms of assisting the people of the DRC going into the elections?
You see, before talking about the SADC community, the African Union, I want to specifically speak to the South African leadership, which was so much, even in the past, involved in solving
issues or problems
issues regarding DRC from Sun City, if you remember. Then South Africa is one of those countries that is impacted by but what's happening negatively in Congo in terms of like security, in terms of immigration. Can you imagine for such a wealthy country as the DRC, people would not stop running away just to find some better life in neighboring country, especially South Africa? Then we call upon South African leadership to intervene and try to, for the Congolese people, getting free and fair election. And we also call upon the SADC community, the African Union, because if the outcome of those bogus elections doesn't please the people, there will be definitely chaos, and that chaos will negatively impact all the sub-region.
You call the upcoming elections bogus elections, but they have been, stated by international observers during a process that the election, the process or the campaigning process is free and fair. And going into the elections, observers have claimed that. Now, what's your take on that? Because that's a totally different, statement with regards to what they saw and what you're experiencing in the DRC.
Totally different point of view, because you can, for example, note that the Electoral Commission didn't allow any international observer from from Europe. They didn't allow any financing from other country. Then it's just like Kabila's cuisine doing things on his own. And those claims saying that we're going toward fair election are, I'm telling you, very, very false. Because I'm saying it again, how can you, while the candidate is busy traveling all the country freely with, I must say, government means, public enterprises working for his campaign, our candidate can't use the plane we rented for him because of some, very funny reason. They say they talking about technical problem. How come? We just rented a very new jet in South Africa, and they can't trust that plane to fly in the Congo because of technical issues. That is one of the problem. And as we heading to the 23 December, our fear is that the situation will get worse.
And what's the reaction of the Congolese people in the DRC?
Congolese people has been through a lot since the last 17 years under Kabila regime. That is one of the most tremendously rich, wealthy country in the world, with like most of half the world reserve of cobalt. But yet people live with less than $2 a day. Those people want change. Those people expect some another leadership that could change their fate. They are waiting those upcoming elections, but as my candidate Martin Fayulu asked, for them to be free, they should remove that electronic voting machine. They should clear the voters list from those 10 million people without fingerprint.
Now,
and so we can.
removal of the electoral voting machines, is it likely to happen? Do you think that they will respond positively to the calls from the opposition?
Since the use of that machine is not constitutional, they should remove its use. Nowhere in the DRC constitution, neither in the rules that the Electoral Commission are using, they did mention the use of that machine. It has been like imposed by Kabila's camp to maneuver towards some very huge cheating. That is the only reason they would not change that machine. But our struggle, our fight is to get that machine removed so people can go vote with paper, and it's gonna be easy to check. Can you imagine in a country where most of the rural people are uneducated? They didn't any day of their life experiment a screen, a digital screen. That will be the first time our mothers in rural area would face that machine. And can you imagine what the people inside the vote poll will do with them? They will vote for them, and that's our fear. We want that machine
just
removed.
Very quickly, as we wrap up, do you think elections on the 23rd of December will take place in the DRC?
That is our hope. The election has to take place on that due date. Otherwise, we should consider a transition without Kabila.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll leave it there for now. And that was Nono Nlandu, the Sub-Saharan Africa Presidential Campaign Director for one of the presidential candidates in the DRC, Martin Fayulu, joining us live in studio.